everyone for joining us today for our monthly webinar on 3 ways to boost your EMBA through career management and executive coaching. I'll have some guests that will be introducing themselves. Actually, I'll have them do a quick word right now. I'll actually start with Robin, who is our partner at Right Management, and we have 2 alums that I'll introduce here in 2 slides. So Robin, if you'd like to say a few words.
Sure, thanks Aldous, and hi everybody. I'm Robin Silverman. I'm a vice president and principal consultant with Right Management, located in Minneapolis, although these days that doesn't mean anything to anybody because you can work anywhere in the world as long as you have a device. It doesn't really matter. And Right Management is a division of the Manpower Workforce Solutions Group. I'm in the Talent Solutions area, and we help people unleash their potential. That would be the best way to describe what we do.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And so the Purdue MBA program has worked with Right Management in the past. We're restarting that engagement, and we think it's really an exciting opportunity. And because career management and coaching is critical for people in parallel to earning their EMBA, I like to say it helps them boost or acts as a catalyst to all the learning and the networks that they're gaining. So that's why we've decided to focus on that topic for today. In terms of who I am, I'm Aldous Krikchunas, the Executive Director of our programs here at Purdue University. I've been at Purdue coming up on 18 years and almost 10 years in this particular role. So I'm happy to also be answering your questions today and moving forward in the future. And we're also joined by 2 of our alums, both from the class of 2019. Both worked with Right Management while they were in the program. So Sarah, I'll have you say a few words first, and then Ken.
Okay, welcome everybody. I'm Sarah Howe. I am currently a management consultant, actually launching my own business as a consulting firm. Previously, I was Executive Vice President of the Illinois Primary Healthcare Association, and prior to that, the CEO of the Illinois Association for Behavioral Health, and a proud graduate of the EMBA class of 2019.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ken Janicki, and like Sarah, I'm a graduate of the 2019 EMBA class. I'm president of Engineered Solutions Incorporated, which is an engineering consulting firm. We've actually branched out into consulting, both manufacturing, business development, and even human resource development for some of our clients. Happy to be here and hope we can answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. So it is pretty neat, 2 people from the same cohort with very different backgrounds. We'll talk more about that here in a bit. And so the way we're going to do today's webinar is I'll give a fairly quick overview of the programs, and then we'll have Q&A with Sarah, Robin, and Ken, both from the, call it EMBA student perspective, and also from the assistance service provider side, and just getting those different perspectives. You know, when people hear about career management or coaching, there's a lot of thoughts that come to mind, but unless you've actually been part of that process, there's a lot more to learn about it. One quick element about Sarah that I'll point out is during her time in the program, she was actually on an episode with Dr. Oz talking about healthcare and mental health, if I recall. So we actually changed our schedule so that the whole cohort could watch Sarah be on TV at the same time. And that just captures, I think, the type of backgrounds, impact, and diversity that we have in our cohorts. So a quick overview of Purdue University. We just celebrated our 150th anniversary. I want to say this year, but it's already been 2 years. We're part of the Big Ten, a large globally renowned university. And so while today we're focused on the EMBA programs, keep in mind we're a leader in 200 different major areas. So while you're in the program, you have access to a large range of materials, faculty, library resources, if there's other areas of interest for you. We have well over 600,000 Boilermaker alumni, as we call ourselves, around the world. close to 45, 50,000 Krannert alumni, 3,000 EMBA alumni. So while your cohort may be 25 or so individuals, you're part of this much broader, as we call it, Purdue Nation or Boilermaker Nation, alumni around the world across the US. And what I've learned is when I travel, people either know Purdue University or they know our most famous alum, Neil Armstrong. It's always a conversation starter, and Purdue alumni are very loyal alumni. So if you see someone wearing Purdue shirt, Purdue hat, you know they have a connection, and that means you have a connection with that person as well. Here's a quick snapshot of our recent cohorts. So we require a minimum of 5 years of work experience, no maximum. The average is about 15 per years of experience per cohort. Positions that people work in reflect the years of work experience from analyst on up to vice president C-suite, and close to 10% self-employed entrepreneurs, either while in the program or like Sarah, starting their own business ventures after graduation. Current industry, again, nicely spread out across different areas. And then geographic backgrounds, about a quarter live in Indiana, a quarter across the Midwest, a quarter international, and the rest spread throughout the United States. So as we'll see here in a moment, we're set up for people to be in different stages of their career, different positions, industries, geographies, and that truly diverse background is part of the richness of our program. The way we have our program set up, I'll give a quick overview here, is both of our Executive MBA programs are 19 months from start to finish. We have a fall start for our traditional EMBA that Sarah and Ken both graduated from, and the spring start for our global Executive MBA. Both programs start with a 4-day online launch where you meet the members of your cohort, you meet the members of your first study team, and you meet the faculty. You take a class session for each of your courses, and you learn about the technology. Like many organizations, we've done some technology changes. So our courses are provided through a platform called Brightspace. We've become really big on MS Teams, and of course on Zoom as well, where needed. After that program launch, where you have that foundational knowledge of everyone, you start the pre-residency, 8 to 10 weeks. During that time, you're reading books faculty have assigned. We're 100% e-textbooks. You'll watch videos that faculty have created. You have individual and team assignments, and then weekly team meetings. With that foundation building set, you come to campus, the on-campus residency. During that time, you're taking classes. We have continued to do on-campus classes, and our current EMBA cohort is actually here in West Lafayette right now. Company visits, we've done that historically and will restart. Guest speakers, either in person or via Zoom. Career management support, that's what we're focused on today. And social events, basketball games and the like when that's allowed. So really that on-campus part coming together for 1 or 2 weeks is where you're not just diving into the material, but forming those bonds with your classmates, because when classes end at 4:30 or 5, you continue to work with them, you continue to interact with them. After the residency, you return home, you have a 1-week break to prepare for exams and catch up on other work. And then exams are over a 9-day period. You take them online at home, or if you want to at work, whatever is best for you. And you choose when you take those exams over that 9-day period. After exams are done, you have typically a 1-week break, and then you start the new pre-residency with new study groups. We in the program form the study groups to make them diverse yet balanced, and then we change the study groups each module so that you work with as many different people as possible during your time in the program. As I mentioned, we have 2 Executive MBA programs. So our traditional EMBA starts every fall. In that, you come to West Lafayette 5 times for 1 or 2 weeks. And then the very last time we come together is a 2-week international residency. The students of each cohort choose where they go from a range of options. If I remember, Sarah and Ken, we all went to South America, is that right?
Yep,
Yep.
we did.
A week in Brazil, a week in Chile, and I remember last evening in Chile, a very nice winery that we were able to visit. But don't think it's just fun and games. You work even during the international residencies, because I'm teaching, so I make sure we all work. Also, a point of bonus or significance is that we have what we call workshop style immersion electives, where the students help to form ideas of topics. And with that, it becomes truly a student-driven curriculum where you can do a deeper dive into a topic. And there may be only 10 people in your class on that immersion elective. So it lets you try out different topics that maybe you wouldn't have been to be able to otherwise. The Global EMBA, starting every March, there we have 2-week residencies going to 5 different, coming together 5 different times. Historically, we've done the US, China, Italy, Lithuania, Netherlands, Brazil, and Chile. So even as we're re-evaluating that complete list, it's still going to be the 4 continents. We'll do Asia Pacific, Europe, North America, and South America. And because we have partners in each of these locations, you get that global reach, you get that local immersion. You're learning from businesses as we go to each of these countries, their business challenges, their business models, and you earn 2 MBA degrees during this program, one from Purdue and one from our Dutch partner, TIAS. Curriculum is fairly similar across the 2 programs, with more electives in the traditional EMBA and some classes that are embedded into the region and captures more of the doing business in South America or Europe as you go through the program. The networking and coaching, you get in both. And then in both, you have a capstone consulting project and you have cohort-based electives as well. And then just briefly talking about a typical week on campus. That campus might be West Lafayette. It might be Milan, Italy, depending on the program that you're in. And so I think Sarah and Ken very much remember these schedules. Typically Monday through Saturday classes, breakfast and lunch. You don't go hungry in the program, I can tell you that. And then you have 2 classes in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, typically a different topic to give you a bit of that mental variety. And then where appropriate, we have the opportunity for company visits. Free evening just means that we, the program, have not planned anything, but faculty may have a case study or project that you're working on during that week as well. We do some group dinners, and then where appropriate, some social event. Again, those have been paused for just a little bit longer, I believe, but looking forward to having those available to our students as well. But we are on campus, the students are together, and they have that opportunity to be learning from each other. So there's a lot more I can talk about, and next month when we do our EMBA 101, we talk much more broadly about the programs. Also, we have our previous webinar, EMBA 101, where there's a lot more information on those. But today we're going to focus on our topical topic on career management. So I'm going to start off and maybe answer the first question, and then I'm going to bring in our panel to talk about these elements about utilizing career management resources. Certainly, if any of our guests have any questions, feel free to use the chat box or to unmute your mic and ask questions that way. We want to make sure you're getting your questions answered today. So on career management, I'll give my I'll give my first answer, and then Robin, if you want to comment on that perspective, and then we'll bring in the panel on the other elements. So career management is not, at least in an EMBA program, it's not job placement. And why I say that is in the traditional 2-year MBAs where individuals are basically unemployed for the 2 years as they go through the program, part of their main goal is to find a job upon graduation. They tend to be much more early career. Many have not had any management experience whatsoever. What's different in an EMBA program is that the individuals within the program, they are employed as they go through the program. So they're not necessarily looking for a new job. In fact, half of our alumni are still with their companies 2 years after graduation. And then half have moved on to another location. So it's not the looking for a job that's critical in what we're providing. Rather, we're providing the skills of the EMBA along with skills of how to manage one's career. Managing your career is something that we think everyone should be doing. And that's why we make these resources available to everyone. And maybe how do you become more effective in your current role and within your organization, certainly as you move up. Or it may be how one looks around, how does one network, how does one leverage one's skill set. Again, our students have an average of 15 years work experience, so they're not looking for entry-level jobs, and therefore that interviewing or job placement isn't what we do, but pretty much everything else that is needed for career management is what we're able to provide. I don't know, Robin, if there's anything you want to comment on that definition.
I think your definition is excellent, Aldous. I'll add just a few things. First of all, the reason why you're getting an MBA, an EMBA, all right, is to be a leader. In other words, to say you're going to be an executive means you need to have people follow you. So some of the things that come from career management services are not listed, on that schedule that Aldous told you. For instance, the fact that you really do need to understand what your natural strengths are. And you say, I already know that because, I've been working for a long time. Well, I have to tell you that when you take some of these assessments, you might be surprised. I'll give you an example. When I took the Berkman not too long ago, I discovered that I have a natural tendency for what they call music. And you'd say, well, what good is that in a consulting role? And the answer is, I can harmonize things and bring them together. I was an individual contributor until about a year ago. If you had told me that I'd be doing what I'm currently doing, all right, I would have told you, forget it. And what I discovered from taking these assessments is that I really do have this natural talent, all right, for bringing people together. So now I am leading a region with 110 coaches in 15 states that frankly was a little broken. In other words, I had to bring people together. It is such a natural fit, and I am so happy that it's just amazing. So to be able to do assessments and really sort of get in touch, not only with what you know, but who you are. And again, some of you are saying, oh, I've done assessments at other points in my career. I've done my DISC, I've done Myers-Briggs and whatever. If you haven't done them in the last 2 years, all right, or frankly, in the last year, since we have all been impacted by COVID, nobody's the same as they were a year ago, nobody. So just being able to do that, because again, you can't be a leader without some amount of an emotional intelligence. You have to know where you're coming from and what goes on. So that's one. The other thing is that you really do have to think about your brand, not only within the organization, but also outside of it. And you'd say, oh, I don't need to be branded. And my answer is, oh, yes, you will be. The difference is whether you choose it or not. All right. So again, as things shift in a very volatile and uncertain environment, you want to make sure you have control, all right, over how people perceive you or what you want that perception to be. Career management services can help you not only define what that is, but also speak to it, and then also support it with things like your LinkedIn profile, which your LinkedIn profile is now your business card. That's it. All right. In other words, you may have paper business cards. I promise you that unless you go to Asia, well, you are going to Asia. Some of you are, but the fact of the matter is, unless you go to Asia where you present it with both hands, it doesn't really matter. Okay. In other words, it's not part of a ritual, but LinkedIn does matter. So part of this is defining who you are and how you want the world to see you. That's another one. Then, of course, if you are going to be interviewing within your own company, you do probably need practice at it. So we have all the tools in career management services so that you can practice those things online. Not everybody knows how to interview online. All right. In other words, some people end up looking like Phantom of the Opera. Some people have very monotonic voices. Some people have, very, very expressive faces. You need to know how you come across, and we have tools for that can make a difference. And so finally, what it is to simply say, if you're going to get an EMBA, all right, and particularly an international one, you really want to package, okay, what that knowledge is going into, and then the impact of that, not only possibly in your company, but on the world. Now, again, Aldous pointed out, not only are you going to be connected to, Krannert alumni and then the Boilermaker alumni, you're also going to be connected to Wright alumni, right? And we are one of the, a Fortune 500 company. So all of a sudden, the world of leaders is open to you. And then the real question is, once someone's handed you the keys to that Ferrari, what do you want to do with it? Where do you want to go? So again, if you're going to be, become an EMBA with a school like Krannert, you really, really do want to be conscious, all right, of everything else that supports that, so that not only do you earn back your tuition very quickly in terms of your career and things like that, but also that your potential really is unleashed so that you can make the difference. Because again, this is going to put you into a new chapter in your career so that you can really go out and make the difference that you're meant to make. Long answer, short question.
Thank you. There'll be time for more. So I'm going to start with Ken. You certainly worked with Right Management during your time in the program. Can you share that first part, the career assessments, or what your starting steps were in working with them?
Sure. Yeah, I actually, it was funny listening to Robin, because as she was explaining it, I was reminded of all the discussions I had with Jody Fosno.
Okay.
She was my coach, and she did a fantastic job of explaining exactly what Robin was talking about. Are you branding yourself the way you think? Do you know, is your LinkedIn profile a good business card? And she really helped me understand and see all of those issues. And just having that interaction with her, reading it's one thing, but talking with another professional about it and having her kind of mirror back what she sees or what she thought I said really kind of showed the stark difference. I'm like, wow, yeah, I didn't realize that's how something came across or how something wasn't showing through. So she was instrumental in kind of revamping my resume, my own personal bio that I share with customers, and LinkedIn. She further went on to help explain how executive recruiters really work and how their world kind of works and behaves, and how to navigate through that if that interests you. So it was very informative. I didn't expect to learn as much as Right Management kind of showed me, and I'm pretty sure I shared that with Aldous and the team when I left. I was very happy to work with Jody and Right Management.
Awesome, thank you. Sarah, from your perspective, you work in a different industry, certainly, and you've had a different career path than Ken since graduation as well. So if you can talk about those initial stages that you had with Right Management.
Absolutely. So I worked with Jody as well, and we had a bit of a different discussion than Ken, because I came to Jody with a plan. I came, I was going to get my EMBA for one reason, one job path, one place I was going. By the time Jody and I got done, I didn't even apply for that job. So, I think it says a lot. My goal was to go a whole different path and a whole different perspective, and I didn't. That's not the path that I took. I actually veered in another direction. I broadened into a broader healthcare industry that I was not planning to do. As Aldous had mentioned, my career for 20 years had been in behavioral healthcare, mental health, and substance use. I wound up moving and broadening into a broader healthcare perspective. And the conversation that I had with Jody, and really peeling back the skills, the different hidden underlying talents that you don't know that you were talking about, Robin, has enabled me to move in this direction now of launching my own business.
Yeah.
And that is, I will tell you, Robin's right. When I went to Purdue, I had absolutely no plan of doing that whatsoever. And now I'm really excited by this path. And I do give Jody a lot of credit for that discussion, because I did not walk into the discussion with the plan, and I was going this way, and I've veered, that way, and I'm happy with it.
Yeah. And thanks for saying that, both of you, because all I want to add to that is that our coaches are trained to listen. I mean, we have a lot of knowledge. Okay, they have a lot of knowledge, but the fact of the matter is that when someone tells us that they want to go in a certain direction, and we're watching the body language and the facial expressions, and we're looking at the assessments, and we're thinking, there's no way this person wants to do this, okay? Or we might say, are you sure you want to do that? Have you thought about this? I mean, we might turn it into just a question. But it really is interesting. One time I was giving feedback on an assessment to, again, an executive in the program. And I look at this assessment and I think, this guy is a race car driver. So I called his coach and I said to him, tell me about this candidate. And he said, oh, he's a CFO. He's an accountant. And I said, no way is he an accountant. Okay. I said, the guy's a race car driver. So anyway, he gets on the call and I said to him, I'm going to say something to you that nobody has ever said to you your entire life. And he says, what's that? I said, I'm pretty sure you're a race car driver. And he goes, oh, how did you know that? That's amazing. And so I showed him the evidence from the assessment. And then we started to talk about, well, what kind of a job really would be a good fit? And the answer to the whole thing was that he ended up going to work as the CFO for a venture capital firm. The guy loved risk. And so we just maximized it. It's really fun to do. Thanks for confirming that.
The other thing I would say that Jody did was and Ken, you brought this up, she's a mirror at the same time in those discussions. And so as I was determining if I wanted to go towards the path and apply for that job, I was telling her all the concerns I had about it, that in really some of the politics of it and all the different pieces. And she was able to help me sort of unpack all that and really think through, is this the direction you want to go, and all the hoops you're going to jump through, and then when you get there, are you going to be happy at the end of that tunnel, so to speak? So it's a great opportunity, and I would say I wish more of the students took advantage of it, because even if you do think exactly where you're going, it never hurts, even if it's just confirming that yes, you're on the path, but here's how we can help even enhance that.
A great point.
Yeah, thank you. And Ken, thank you for pointing out the fact that, as you say, most people really, especially if you just think you're just going to go back and stay in the organization, you think, oh, what do I need the LinkedIn to be updated for? In other words, what do I really care about my bio? Except for the fact that, even in an organization where everybody knows you, like for instance, a year ago, I was an individual contributor. When I applied for this job, everybody knows me. Okay, who was interviewing, for it. But the fact of the matter is I still had to have a resume. I still had to update my LinkedIn profile. In other words, the fact, and I was kind of kicking myself because I thought, I know this, all right. And I just, and I didn't have it done. So now that you did it, I'm just curious about something. Do you think you will continue to use the, what you learned to keep it updated? I'm just curious what your take on that is.
Obviously, I would like to say, of course, absolutely. But I think, as everyone can attest, you do get overcome by your day-to-day events. So you really need to, and Jody prefaced this a lot, you need to build in some scheduled time for those kinds of reviews, whether it be, quarterly or monthly, whatever works for you. So, I mean, I'll admit it's been almost a year since I've last messed with any of them. But after getting invited to this, I mean, Aldous kind of jogged my memory there. I'm like, yeah, I need to pay attention to that. And it's amazing how quickly it can get away from you. But it's a great point. You really do need to stay on top of it. And it's amazing how things can change. Listen to these two ladies here talking about what a difference a year has made in their career paths. So as difficult as it might be, try to get that discipline in your life. I need to double my efforts as well, and be reviewing where you're at, where you are on your plan. Do you need to adjust your plan? And does your branding through all these different venues reflect that.
Right.
And so great point, Robin.
Thanks. And the thing about a LinkedIn site, all right, is that you also not only have your posts, you can put articles you believe in. In other words, it helps people find you. Recruiters are always looking for people who are the most active on LinkedIn. It doesn't mean you have to say yes if they call you. But again, what's the point of getting the EMBA if you don't want to make an impact and be open to where you could possibly make that impact? Okay.
And I think that's a critical point when you're talking to prospective students with the EMBA, because I think each of us go in with this is why I'm getting my EMBA. And ultimately through the journey, through the process, working with people like Right Management, you find a different reason for why you're getting that EMBA. And so it makes a lot of sense to make sure that you're keeping that brand up to date, because otherwise, if you just say, I have an MBA, people will come up with their own brand for what that means.
Right.
So you've got to create that. But I would guess all of us started in a very different place than where we ended with what our expectations were, why we got the MBA and what it's doing for us today.
Yeah. Also, both of you talk just a moment about what it's like to have a coach where you know that everything you say to that coach is confidential. In other words, what does that feel like in terms of a conversation?
So, Sarah, let me jump in on that. I loved it. The folks that I work with, a lot of my clients, you can't really have those kinds of conversations because you don't want to be judged. You don't want people to worry about, oh, wait, are you looking to leave? Or, oh, we didn't know that you weren't happy with this part of your work life and that you're wanting to go off and do something totally different. You don't want to muck up your day-to-day or your current career position with what maybe your dreams or aspirations are. At the same time, you don't want people to maybe know that, gee, you don't know where you're headed. You don't know what you've got planned. And so it's really nice. It's kind of like talking to your best friend, your spouse, being able to just open up and be honest with them. And believe me, Jody will be brutally honest with you. Kind of like Robin said, sometimes they'll reflect things back that you didn't expect. But it was enlightening.
Thanks, Ken.
I think I agree with everything that Ken said. The other thought that I had about it is we're all so busy, right? And even now with COVID, it seems like our work days have just gotten longer because we don't have to leave to go to the office. So, and I recall almost every time that I had a coaching call scheduled, it was one of those where I thought, oh, I have a million things to do. I don't really have time for this right now, but I'll just get it done. And every single time I was so glad that I did it. And by the end of the call, I knew it was the right thing to do. But you get into those positions where you get so busy in your day-to-day that one more call. And what is interesting is the calls that we push off are the ones about ourselves, the ones where we're trying to take care of ourselves and our career. And so that's the first one we're like, well, I can shove that to the side for the day. And every time I did not do that, it was a very good thing because it helped put in perspective, not just the career, but even when I got off the phone and went back to what I was doing, I almost had more of a purpose for where you were going. So I enjoyed having the conversations and being able to share. And just, I think the other piece that Ken, you pointed out, we all don't know where we're going all the time. That's human nature. But it is very difficult. You can't say that to your board of directors, your immediate supervisor, the people who work for you. This gives you that freedom to do that. And it's a really good opportunity to really focus on what's important to you and take that opportunity.
Nice.
A question for Sarah and Ken. So some people have told me, well, I already have a mentor. I don't need career management. Did either of you already have mentors, and what did you find to be different between this coaching versus a mentor relationship that you already had?
I did. I don't know, Ken, if you want me to jump in. And
Go ahead.
I did have mentors. I still do. I find that they are very helpful. I even took the mentoring class at Purdue when we had it as an elective. So I'm a big fan in them. But I found there's a difference between a mentor who knows you in a different capacity versus someone whose skill is career management, finding those hidden talents. I mean, really, those types of the assessments and the conversations are very different than a mentor that's maybe in your field, or has known you in a very different capacity. So together they work well in concert with one another. They're not exclusionary. That's what I would say.
Mm.
So adding on to what you said, Sarah, you're right. When it's someone in your own career field, you got to keep in mind they may have a limited view on the world, and they already have their view of you somewhat formed. So the first thing that, when Aldous asked the question, the first thing that popped into my mind is it's sort of like getting a second opinion from a doctor. What harm does it do to talk to someone else? If at worst they just confirm what your mentor is already working on you with, great. But if not, they may show you something that you hadn't thought of before, and that your current mentor wouldn't see either. So I think it's a great thing to have both if you can.
Yeah, I'm gonna add to that too. I would agree it's a both and. And the reason why is a mentor is not a coach, nor are they trained as a coach. The big difference is that mentors are usually not trained. Okay, they're very, very nice people who want to help. Okay, and as you both pointed out, they have a certain perspective on you, the industry, and the business. A trained career coach has a much broader view of human potential and what you could become. So you can take what your coach tells you and then put it in the framework of the discussions you're having with your mentor, or vice versa. My mentor said this, and then the coach said, well, have you ever considered this? So having both and being able to compare and contrast, as Ken points out, like sort of a second opinion, ultimately you are, the only authority over your own life, right? So having both of those opinions plus your own is what ultimately will help you make the kind of decision that is likely to really be good for you and your family, and all those kinds of things. I'd say it's a both and. When we teach coaching at Wright, we say there is a difference between a consultant, which is what Sarah's going to be. In other words, Sarah's going to go out into the world as a consultant. That means she's an expert, and you could tell based on her introduction where her expertise is. So she's going to go in and basically look for areas where that expertise will solve problems and things like that. That's what consultants do. Okay. They are the objective third opinion. In other words, if you had the answer, you wouldn't have the problem. That's why you need consultants. Okay. Seriously, that's why. So she's going to go do that. That's not the same as if Sarah went in to coach someone who's leading a team in one of those organizations. It would be a very different kind of relationship. One is that she's going to show and tell. The other is, so one is a push, coaching is a pull. Okay, it's where you're pulling something out of somebody. Mentoring tends to be a push for the most part. Most mentors do it as a push. Have you thought of that? Let me introduce you to this person. Let me, show you the next step. Mentoring tends to be more of a push because they're not trained as coaches. And there is a difference. It's a difference.
Thank you. So another question for Sarah and Ken. So in taking the advantage of these resources, it does require a certain letting go that you already have all the answers. So, and I think the further on in a person's career, maybe that letting go becomes more difficult. So did you have that mental barrier, and what helped you to say, you know what, I'm going to give this a try? It's not only for a 20-year-old, but it can be for someone further on in their career.
Sarah, you want to take it, or would you?
Sure, I can take it. I think, yes. I think when you start that process, you have that feeling of, what is this person going to tell me? What am I going to learn? I think, Robin, you brought that up. And so in the beginning, I really did have to, I had that path, right, that I was planning to be on. And I feel almost as if I started with the wanting to confirm that path, and I knew the answers. And so this person I was going to bring them in and they were going to tell me that this was the right path. And then I was going to move forward because I already knew the answer to that. No, and there's that process, right? Where within the first session, maybe by the second session, there was, oh, okay. And there's a little bit of that. And you do have to let go and say, so I don't know all the answers, and it's okay. That is absolutely okay. And this is the place to not have them, or, not have all the answers, because this is the place where you can ask all the questions. But I do feel, at least for me in the very beginning, it was going to be a confirmatory process. And that is not at all where it ended. And I'm grateful that it didn't end that way.
Yeah. Good.
Thank you. Ken, anything to add?
I went into it a little more open than what Sarah shared, mainly because I wanted to find out what it was that I didn't know. So I'm sure I had my own preconceived ideas and notions, but I did kind of go into it open just to kind of poke around the closet, see what might be on the shelf that I didn't recognize before. And boy, yeah, Jody really showed me a lot of those shelves. So
I have to just share that, again, a coaching relationship is such a gift to an adult mid-career. Okay. When I looked at Aldous' figures, a lot of you are mid-career, mostly because when I used to do leadership development, one question I would always ask is, so tell me, why did you decide to do what you're currently doing? Or what was the day you decided to do that? And you get all kinds of wacky answers, but it gets down to, well, I don't know, in other words, it just seemed like a job I could do, or that, there was an employer in my town or whatever. In other words, most people roll into their careers without a lot of thought because, you're young, you just want to get a job, you're out of college, got to pay some bills, that kind of stuff. And then the years go by and, you do a little more of it, a little more. Nobody ever asks the question, why? Okay, why are you doing this? And do you still want to do it? Or do you want to do it the way you've been doing it, or as the person you are as when you've been doing it? Coaches will take you there. And again, a mentor likely will not. A mentor will assume you want to stay on the path you're on for the most part. Not always, but for the most part, they will.
Thank you. And then let's talk about the coaching sessions as well. So as Robin pointed out, they are confidential. All that I and Brian and others in the program know is we just know who coaching sessions have been held with, because we have to track that for administrative purposes. I really have no idea what Sarah and Ken talked about during their coaching sessions, and I don't have time to find out anyways, but it truly is confidential between you and the coach. So I'll start off with Sarah first, and then Ken. Maybe talk, and you've already hit upon it, Sarah, so maybe a little bit more depth. What was that prep like? And when I tell people, coaching is not counseling. It's very different. So it's not to complain. It truly is meant to be constructive to move you forward. So can you talk a little bit about that prep and sort of give us a better framing about that?
Sure. The first session we had was a conversation about what I was thinking, where was I going, what type of questions maybe did I have for her, and really that first foundational one is why are you here? Why did you come to a career coach? Let's talk about that. From there, Jody was able to send me different resources, different assessments, different things that I needed to look at or fill out or complete. It depended on what the situation was. And then we would talk about it. In my case, she didn't do as many assessments as she had resources for different areas, different career paths we were looking at that I would review and have a conversation with her the next time. So if I didn't at least review it, the conversation wasn't really going to move any further the next time down the path. But then we also would do some of that work, that assessment work. I did update my resume, and she took a look at that. The same thing we talked about with the LinkedIn profile, all those pieces. But I will say, if it sounds overwhelming, it's not. they don't give you more than, you can bite off, especially you have to remember, Ken and I were both in the middle of our EMBA program while we were doing this. And she was very respectful, very aware we were managing full-time jobs in EMBA. So it wasn't dumping another case study on you. So I want to say that right up front. It didn't take a lot of time. And if you didn't get to it that week because you had a million things going on, I could just reach out and say, can we push that back? I haven't had a chance to do that. I will say that's the most important piece, is being upfront and honest with your coach at where you've gotten in that prep work, because you do need to do that, but don't let that scare you from reaching out first, because it's not overwhelming, and it's usually interesting. It really is.
Thank you. Ken, your perspective?
So, I mean, I've got to wholeheartedly echo what Sarah said. The prep work that we were given to work on, in some ways, it seemed a little more difficult than some of the class homework. But for me anyway, it was because it was so introspective. It was so much really trying to dissect, myself and what I wanted out of something, or what my why was. And in reviewing any of the bio or LinkedIn, trying to discern, well, what is it that could be missing from there? And is that telling the same story? And then the big benefit was in discussing that with Jody. When I would give her the information, she'd review it. And then when we would meet and talk, it was getting that reflection back of, well, to an outsider, here's what they're reading and here's what they may be thinking. From the discussions that we would have, it was informal. It was like talking to a friend. She would bring up things like, well, I keep hearing this from you, or I'm drawing, these conclusions from what you're saying, and that's not being reflected here. And she would show me how. Actually, a couple of times she took it aside, and a week later she'd come back with her version. And even though it didn't change the information, the way it was presented made all the difference in the world. So yeah, I don't think the prep work was too onerous. The difficulty had to do with being so introspective and so critical about your own motivations, and looking at your own resumes and your own branding with the same critical eye that you probably do when you're hiring someone else.
Right. And the only thing, again, I would add to what both of you are saying is that, you probably can go to a used car lot and see a car that looks good on the outside. Until you see what the engine can do, you don't know what you're buying. So what Ken is describing particularly is really understanding your own engine and where, in other words, what is, running well, what could run better. That would be, and as I said, most adults never ask the question. They just sort of roll into their adult life, and, and then all of a sudden you're married, or your partner, and you've got kids, or you got animals, or you got aging parents, or you got neighbors, or who knows what you got, and again, all of a sudden your life is turned completely outward. You really don't know what you think or want. Okay. You just know that whatever this is doesn't feel quite right. And again, if you're going to do this kind of investment, you really do want to maximize all of it. It's a great time and place to pause in your life, get the knowledge, pull it all together, and then take it forward.
The other thing I wanted to mention about Jody that I assume, and I'm ultimate confidence that all your coaches do this, is if she didn't hear from me after a while, she would check back in, because she knew we were busy.
Yeah.
She knew things were going on, and I would get an email like, you still there? Haven't heard from you. Do we need to have a check-in call? And it was, we were all busy. And when she would do that, I'd say, oh, absolutely. Every time I got that email from her, yep, we do need to get back on that, and we need to. And I appreciate that, which is different. I think even so mentors might do that, but this is a very deliberate, focused process where she's just very gently saying, hey, don't forget about you in your own career, and let's refocus on that. So I appreciated that.
Good. Yeah. And yes, to answer your question, Sarah, they all do it.
Yes. I would assume they would. Yes.
Yeah. They all do it.
So one more question for Robin on this set of topics. So one thing that I've seen in discussing EMBA programs with people, since COVID started, is that while for some, they don't want to do an EMBA because of the uncertainty, for others, it's the exact opposite. They're putting things back to be a priority that they keep putting off. And they say, I can't make myself be second place forever. And so they've reprioritized making the EMBA even more important than it was before. So a very interesting dichotomy that I've seen. From your coaching side, are you seeing the questions that people ask have changed because of COVID, or is COVID just an environment of uncertainty, but the core questions are continuing?
Well, nothing is normal, Aldous. Okay. And so I won't say that we are seeing, our coachees divided into two camps, but first of all, there is never any criticism of anyone right now. I think everyone's doing the best they can. Parents suddenly are turning into teachers at home, or, again, all of a sudden someone you love or care about gets sick. I mean, things that none of us ever expected to have to cope with, especially for this length of time with this much uncertainty. And some people handle uncertainty better than others. I do think there are some people who have said basically, hey, it is time. In other words, I have prioritized everything and everyone else in my life, and this really has awakened me. In other words, they've gotten very uncomfortable, making with that recognition that they've put themselves last. So I think that has changed. I also think the social conversation has changed. People who formerly, and again, I'll just share a quick story, but people who formerly were willing to settle are no longer willing. So again, just the quick story is we had a candidate who had been making, a minority, who had been making $100,000 a year in her previous job. She went for a job that was advertised between 180 and 200. They offered her 150 because they knew what she had made previously. She thought that was great because it was 50% more. The coach went back and said to her, before you accept that, I want you to go back and ask one question. And she said, what's that? And she said, just say to them, is there any reason why you're not offering me the advertised salary? And of course, they ended up offering her 200,000, the whole 200. So I think some of it has to do with self-worth, some of, actual financial, monetary impact worth. Some of it has to do with happiness, as you're pointing out. Also, I think we do have a sense of, hey, maybe none of us will be here tomorrow. When you hear these stories, unfortunately, of people who get sick and die very quickly or get compromised very quickly, why not now? When do I think I'm going to do this? But then you also do hear the people who basically say, I'm just going to, step back, go underground for a while and, play it low and slow until this subsides. And I don't think that, again, that there's any criticism of anybody. I just think that people have to deal with this however they have to deal with it. So the answer is, again, in a short form, it's as individual as the people. I don't know that there's a lot of themes emerging right now.
Good, thank you. And I agree, everyone's handling it in very different ways.
Yeah.
Like we say, the MBA can help them, but for some, it's just an added level of work that they don't want to do. So, and as Sarah and Ken, even in talking about the program, the word easy never came up in their description.
I forgot that word.
Nothing worthwhile ever is, right, Aldous?
Indeed, agreed. So let me do a few more slides, and maybe there'll be a few more questions coming up from our other guests today. So a little bit on career impact data as well that we have about our students indicates there's a definite impact. 77% are promoted or grow their own company within 2 years of graduation. That does not capture the number who are promoted while they are in the program. If I put those in, then that number is out there close to 95%, which we're very happy with. Average salary bump within the first year of graduation, significant as well. And, there's a lot more we could talk about the networks that people form within the program. I will point out, I think Sarah won't be upset, that Sarah's not actually in her apartment right now. She is up in Chicago, and she is in the apartment of a cohort member from her also class of EMBA 2019. I think that captures the trust and the bonds that form in her cohort. And then I also have, as you can see, from an EMBA 2017 alum who also said, I remember being told about the lifelong friendships. I didn't think it was true, namely because all EMBA programs talk about that. But he goes, I was wrong. And there he is with two classmates, and they live in opposite parts of the United States, but they come together to do some hiking and alpine type of adventures. And the reason why I believe this happens is that when you're together with your classmates for 1 or 2 weeks at a time, the bonds that form are just significantly stronger than just seeing someone 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every other Saturday, where you show up, you're in class, and you leave. So that element of our program, again, the EMBA 101 webinars go into more depth on that. I think that captures the strength that we're able to provide. Financing is a definite challenge for the program. So our tuition is $85,000 spread over 5 payments during your time in the program. Company support is something you should be looking at. And we have something called a toolkit that we can provide to you to help you have those internal conversations. And then personal support, loans. Some of you may have the post 9/11 GI Bill, 529 accounts, scholarships as well. And taken in total, what we find is that between some company support, scholarships, savings, and loans, that $85,000 becomes certainly doable within the other obligations that you may have. And then Kirsten Reynolds at Purdue's Financial Aid Office, she's a point person to go to if you ever have questions. Purdue has a large financial aid office, as one can imagine, but she knows our program specifically and is always willing to help out. And then last point, and then we'll see if there's any other questions, navigating the path. If you've not done so, I invite you to share your resume with us. We'll do a review regarding fit and a GMAT waiver. We think you should be looking at other programs. So if you'd like to share where you are looking, we'll do a program comparison with up to 3 other EMBA programs to help you in your research. We can connect you with alums. Sarah, Ken, and hundreds of others are available to chat with you. I try to link you to people of a similar background as desired. I have those internal discussions like we keep talking. You can't do this program without your company knowing. I think Ken and Sarah give me a thumbs up on that claim.
Absolutely.
Right.
And so you need to have those discussions, which is why we talk about that. You have opportunities to visit us on campus, either in person or virtually. We have actually opportunities this week and next, and then again in April and months after that. Our website where you registered for today also has those dates. And the application is fairly straightforward. Upload that resume, which is Robin would say, keep it up to date. 3 or 4 essays, 3 required and optional scholarship essay, 2 professional references, your transcripts, and a Zoom interview as well. So not arduous, but really the goal is to make sure you're a good fit for the program and the program is a good fit for you. If you are admitted, get ready to be challenged. It is tough, it's intense, it's rewarding, and it's only 19 months. And you know, with what Sarah and Ken and Robin have shared today, you know, it can be a game changer, certainly for you if that's the path you'd like to go. For our global EMBA, we do have application fee waivers for our Purdue alums, people working at not-for-profits, veterans, and visitors on campus or virtually, or anyone joining today. So that's one thing, an advantage for you. We still do have scholarships for the program starting in March. Application deadline, we've moved out recently to March 4th, namely because we're seeing managers be more open to their employees being in this type of a program with the immersion weeks. So we figured we'd give people a little bit more time for those internal discussions. Program launch the week of March 21st. We have the first on-campus event in June. And then our traditional Executive MBA that Sarah and Ken graduated from, June, July, and August are the corresponding deadlines with program launch the day after Labor Day. So you get to rest up before embarking on that 19-month journey. So I know we're coming toward the end of our time, but I guess final question for Sarah and Ken. What advice would you give to people looking at doing an EMBA program and the importance of career management?
I would say, I think advice-wise is not to sell yourself short. I hear a lot of people that say, I don't have enough time in my day. I don't even have the financial resources. I think at the end of the day, a lot of us have managed to figure out all of those different pieces to get where we were. And the return on investment is far more than even the black and white numbers that you see. So I would take time to invest in yourself now. This is the best time to do it because of the situation that we're in. It gives you that opportunity to really rethink where you're at, and you will not regret it.
So good job as always, Sarah. I will say investing in yourself is spot on. And the first thought that came to my mind was you will never regret it. So I've got to echo what Sarah said. Don't be intimidated by the program. Yes, you will put in some long hours, but it's well worth it. The sense of accomplishment is broken up into the modules, obviously, of course, as is graduation, but it's fast paced, which helps give you that feeling of accomplishment that you are moving through the program. And when you get on site and you do your residencies with the rest of your teams, it just reinforces everything that you've been learning. But don't think you're just going to be reviewing. They also shove a lot of new material at you while you're there together. So everything just moves faster than you would believe. Well worth it.
I would say the one thing I would leave with is a quote that came from our cohort of our females that were in the cohort. On graduation day, when we got together, Ken may not even know this, one of our other cohort members gave each of us a bracelet, which is a quote from, I think it's Oscar Wilde, but I'm not 100% on that, but it really sums us up. You can never be overdressed or overeducated. And that sums it up perfectly.
Very nice. Thank you very much.
Nice.
So thank you everyone for your time today. Again, for Sarah and Ken, reflecting on your time in the program and utilizing the career management support. Robin, as well, for sharing about right management. And Purdue EMBA is very excited to be working with you in right management moving forward as well. It's exciting. You've worked well with our students in the past, and today just reaffirmed one more time the great work that you and your team have done. So thank you as well for joining today. If there are any other questions in the future, for attendees today, feel free to reach out to me, Aldous Krachunas. I know I've spoken to some of you already in the past, so it's good to have you on today's webinar, and look forward to supporting you in your EMBA journey moving forward. Wishing you all a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.